Is it safe to write off the Lakers and the 76ers after two tough playoff matchups? Why the Heisman Trust is giving Reggie Bush his trophy back? And why we, the media, might just be the fumble of the week. That's all next on this episode of The Fumble.
Welcome to another episode of The Fumble. I'm Rodney Ricard. We got Samaria Terry in the building with the clavicle out. I see you, big shoulder. Big shoulder energy. Wagwan, how you feeling?
As we're filming this, it's the day of the NFL draft, and so it's going to be a busy day for me, but I'm excited.
Okay. All right, so who you got going to the Giants? That's really all I care about, if I can be honest with you.
I think it's going to be Malik Neighbors out of LSU going to the New York Giants.
All right, okay. Well, we'll see. Hopefully, we just don't take any more quarterbacks from the ACC.
Are things no longer bliss in Boulder? This week, two top players have decided to part ways with Coach Prime and the University of Colorado and enter their names into the transfer portal. Running back Dylan Edwards and DB Cormani McClain. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting, Rodney. McClain put out a YouTube video and said that he wants to play for a real program. He does not want to play for clicks. What do you make of this?
Well, quite interesting. I would imagine that for these young men, it could be a little bit challenging, right, to play for Dion, who it feels like every other week is declaring that he's looking for dogs and better players and is willing to replace the players on his roster. With Dylan Edwards, I'm really shocked by his transfer because he had such a great year last year, especially that week one game against TCU. Cormani McClain, not so much. Even after he put his statement out, there were a lot of people on social media who were saying that he wasn't the utmost professional. His work ethic was a little lacking and lethargic. So I'm not shocked by Cormani, but for sure the Dylan Edwards transfer shocked me a little bit.
Ooh, you know, what's interesting to me is like programs around the country, top programs are losing players every day to the portal. I think what's telling is that these guys aren't bashing those teams on the way out. You know, something else about McClain's comments was that he said that he was looking for a team that can develop him. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, like last week, Prime actually did a media availability, I guess just during spring practice. And he was asked about players that he's lost to the portal and how he plans to fill those roles in his roster. And he said that they were good. And then he proceeded to go on a little rant about the portal, right? And so he basically told us that players leaving his program were fighting for backup spots and that they really weren't that dude.
Yeah, I mean, Dion is cold, man. He's so cold-blooded. But also, there's also like the money thing at play here. We know that with NIL, right, these kids need to be on the field so that they can maximize their window for earnings while they're in college, right? And so for Dylan Edwards, in the running back room, maybe got a little bit crowded because I believe 2 weeks ago a running back from Ohio State transferred in, and so that might have changed his role with the team. Although they did anticipate him having more of a role in the passing game, he might have just felt like he wasn't going to get the touches. Cormani, last year he didn't play at all, really, you know, in spot moments. But I heard time and time again Dion was trying to tell him what he needed to do in order to be on the field, and he just never met the mark of what Dion expected out of him as a number one rated cornerback coming out of high school last year. And he's probably going to lose a lot of money because of that. So I can understand him wanting to go someplace where greener pastures and he can line his pockets.
Yeah, and that running back out of Ohio State, Dallin Hayton is his name. I actually got to cover him when he was in high school in Memphis. Dude's a dog, as Prime would say. So I can see why Dylan would kind of feel like, okay, maybe I need to go somewhere where this is truly my room and I'm not really having to compete, because Dallin's going to come in and be a day one starter for sure.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well noted. I defer to you when it comes to football because you just got to know where you're strong and where you're weak, and you for sure are the football guru on The Fumble. I bow down to you, my sister, at all times. But let us know your thoughts. Do you feel like Colorado and Deion Sanders are having way too many players transfer out, or do you feel like they're on track to win a championship this upcoming season? Let us know your thoughts. In the NBA playoffs, we had two Game 2s come down to last-second shots this week, both of which I had a vested interest in. So first off, we saw the Lakers lose a 20-point lead and inevitably the game on a last-second shot by Jamal Murray, who turned into Maple Jordan out of nowhere in the fourth quarter. It was crazy, but certainly not to be outdone in theatrics. The Sixers and Knicks game ended in a series of wild plays, starting with Tyrese Maxey's jersey being tugged on like a white baby in the mall, wearing one of them little leashes. And then, of course, you saw it, Samaria. And, of course, the game was capped off by a game-winning three-point shot from Dante DiVincenzo. Samaria, what are your thoughts on both games and ultimately each series?
Oh God. Okay, let's start with the Knicks Sixers. I mean, absolute madness the last 50 seconds of this game. So, of course, you saw the press conference with Nick Nurse after the game. He said in those final seconds that he was trying to call a timeout. He says that the ref just looked right at him regardless. So, the 76ers are 0-2. And I read a stat that says that they have never come back to win a series starting off with back-to-back losses. 14 of them to be exact. So can they come back and do something that's never been done before? I'm going to say no because I feel like the Knicks are just too hungry. They are really sinking right now and sinking in a good way. And Joel Embiid's health is really on the rocks. And so I don't really know about that. And then I feel like, unfortunately, you can say the same about the Lakers losing in that way, like you just mentioned, blowing that 20-point lead, the devastation of those players when they walked off the floor, AD walking out of press conferences. It's not looking good. I feel like that really sealed the deal for that series. And for me, it's going to be interesting to see what the roster of the Los Angeles Lakers will look like next season.
Well, it'll be the same because I believe everyone they can't afford to make too many more moves. So it's always been said in the NBA playoffs that the series doesn't start until a team wins on another team's home court, right? And so both of these series are still very much alive and well. I mean, the Lakers a little bit more bleak because you're dealing with the best player in the world, in Nikola Jokic, right? And we'll get to him a little bit more later. But with the 76ers, Joel Embiid not being able to rebound outside of like a 2-foot circumference is really causing problems for the 76ers. He had zero rebounds in the second half. He's the biggest man in the NBA, besides Wemby, of course. And so it was disheartening. That last second rebound that Josh Hartenstein had, it was because Joel Embiid did not move. Nicholas Batum did not move out of their circumference, and so he just flew in, grabbed the rebound. But ultimately, the Knicks are getting really great games from people that you don't really expect to shoot this well. Josh Hart was incredible for three. He looked like Steph Curry out there. It was insane. Ultimately, though, I do feel like the 76ers will come back and win this series because Tobias Harris, who's a dear friend of mine, is going to play well in games 3 and 4. I am declaring it, so it must be true. Tobias Harris.
So I never know with you, like, New Jersey, New York people. So you're not a Knicks fan?
Hell no. I hate the Knicks. I always want the Knicks to lose.
I never know, like, what, like, no. Y'all, it feels like y'all have, like, teams that you like. If you like one team in this sport, then you have to like this team in another sport. Okay, so you're Giants.
Yes. You know what? We both need to establish at some point who our teams are. Okay? we need to do that because people out there may not know us that well and they may not understand where our allegiances lie. Okay? So I am Yankees, I am Giants, I am Lakers, okay? And the New Jersey Devils, if that counts for anything. And college, North Carolina Tar Heels for basketball, and in football, Rutgers. Okay,
I'll tell my next episode. Let's move on.
All right.
Because that's crazy. You've been disappointed. A lot.
It's all good. I'm not disappointed in the fumble, but let us know your thoughts. Do you feel like the Lakers and Sixers series are both over, or do both teams still have a chance to come back and win?
So Reggie Bush got his Heisman Trophy back. The Heisman Trust formally reinstating the trophy to Bush in what it's calling an enormous change in college football landscape. So back in 2010, Bush's Heisman Trophy was forfeited after it was revealed that he received improper benefits at USC from 2003 to 2005. And once the Supreme Court ruled in favor of college athletes being paid for their name, image, and likeness, Bush began to lobby for his trophy to be returned. Rodney, how you feeling?
Congratulations to Reggie Bush. The Heisman Trophy should have never been stripped from him to begin with. If you do not know, Reggie Bush in the last 20 years of college football he was like a man amongst boys. He was so elite. He was so good. Whoever you think is the best college football player in this upcoming season, he paled in comparison to Reggie Bush. And let me just read off the top 5 names of athletes, right, who got the most money in NIL this year. So you have Shedeur Sanders, Bronny James, Livy Dunn, who's a gymnast from LSU, also from Jersey, Travis Hunter, and Arch Manning. None of them generated the eyeballs. None of them were as exciting as Reggie Bush was. And so if he were to be playing in today's NCAA, he would be making so much money from the NIL that it's only right that we retroactively give him his Heisman back.
Yeah, I mean, I am with you on that. Like the impact, not only that he had on college football, but just the game as a whole was just way too profound to be left out of such a prestigious group of athletes. My question, though, Rodney, is what about the games that were vacated, right? Like, we talking national championships, Final Fours. These were like major victories for these kids that had to be vacated and forfeited because of improper benefits. Are we going to start seeing people get their national championships back, Final Four appearances? I remember when Derrick Rose was at Memphis, all of those wins under Calipari, gone.
Yeah,
There's no banners or anything. Will they get those back now?
Yeah, but YouTube usurps like history books. We know that these games were won. We still have footage of these players playing these games and winning these games and dominating. I don't really care about the NCAA's quote-unquote history books because we have video evidence of what actually took place. And nobody can ever take away like the Fab Five. Like, you can't take away what we actually witnessed. And so the impact is forever lasting because they are still culturally relevant. And so I don't really give a damn if the wins are reinstated or not. It has no bearings on whether or not I view these individuals and these accomplishments as valid.
I can see that. Well, you all let us know what you think down in the comments. So let's pivot a little bit to the sport of hip hop. Rodney, I don't think that any of us thought that Kendrick verse would have grown into this massive rap beef that's seemingly all aimed at Drake. Now, Drake did respond, throwing shots at Metro Boomin, Kendrick, and Future. Rick Ross has now gotten involved, allegedly standing up for his artist French Montana, who felt that Drake wronged him in some way. And then most recently, Kanye has released a Like That remix. Not to mention you got Chris Brown and Quavo throwing diss tracks at each other. This is the crux of rap, right, Rodney?
Yeah, we're going to stick to the varsity beef. We're not going to mention Chris Brown and Quavo. We're going to stick to varsity, okay? So to Like That remix with Kanye West, I think is incredibly corny. Like, Kanye is 46 years old, and for some reason, he is running around like he's 19. And with all of this, like, oh yeah, we're going to jump him. And it's like, have you ever been in an actual fight before? Because you're way too enthused about the opportunity to slander Drake. I'm not a fan of it. Although I do not like the way that Drake competes, I do like the fact that he embraces competition. And I need to acknowledge the fact that he, at every turn, is willing to invest himself in any kind of ruckus when it comes to hip-hop beef. So salute to Drake in that regard.
Yeah, I want to know, what do you think Kanye smell like?
I'm not thinking about listen. I'm a man. Okay, my pronouns are he, him. Okay, I am very heterosexual, and I'm not worried about what a man smells like. I just want to go on record. But also, the Tupac estate is saying that they potentially are looking into suing Drake for using his vocal AI on Drake's recent diss track. And you know, I thought that track was corny. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't think you should be using AI in rap beef, but the kids enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was weird. I am here for all of this though, but I wonder how real is it? Because I don't know if you saw, DaBaby was on Shaq's podcast this week, and he said that a well-known rapper reached out to him, hit him up, and was like, "Hey, let's engage in a beef for publicity." And so he was like, "Nah, dog, I can't do it." But now I'm wondering, like Rick Ross jumping in, was this just for a pub? Like, do you really not? You think that was real?
Usually when Ross is involved, he actually means it. He's not one of these people philandering for the internet, because he goes in a different direction. He don't stop. He's like very aggressive. The 50 Cent and Rick Ross beef, one of my favorite beefs of all time, not because of the records that came out of it, but because of the shenanigans outside of it. But that's my thought on rap beef. Samari, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm here for it. I like it. I'm enjoying it.
All right, for the fumble of the week, I need you to follow me for like 2 seconds. So, 2 times, likely soon to be 3-time NBA MVP, Nikola Jokic's brother, Strahinja, no, he's not Spanish, but I'm going to put some Espanol on it. Strahinja was involved in a fight at the Nuggets' Monday night victory over the Lakers in Denver. In cell phone footage, you can see him hop over seats and make his way down some rows where he unleashed a very weak right-handed punch. I'm just saying it was weak because he big. It didn't affect the guy. That connected directly with the other party's face. And like I said, he was unaffected and unbothered by this weak-ass punch. Now, normally, if someone of Nikola Jokic's stature had a family member get into a fight at a playoff game featuring LeBron James, there would be some sort of media cycle, right? I mean, I had to hear about Patrick Mahomes' daddy DUI for 2 weeks, and he wasn't anywhere near Arrowhead. And just last week, we reported at length about the Porter brothers, rightfully so, might I add. But over the years, I've even had to hear complaints about LeBron's quote-unquote posse, who are nothing but upstanding businessmen. But for some reason, I don't know, Samaria, for some reason, the two-time MVP, world champions family is able to operate below the fog of media scrutiny. And this is not the first time for these brothers. We can recall in 2021 when Markieff Morris got into a kerfuffle, you like that word, right? Kerfuffle? Yeah. With Nikola Jokic. That actually ended up spilling over to Twitter, where Strahinja threatened Markieff's twin brother Marcus by saying, if you want to take it a step further, be sure we will be waiting for you. So my fumble of the week is going to mainstream media. Not because of this incident per se, but because of the way in which they perpetually persecute and pummel not just black athletes, but even their families and friends. If this segment were longer, I would have really went in. But Samaria, for now, mainstream media, you are fumbling. What are your thoughts on my fumble of the week?
Oh, Rodney, I'm with you when you are right. And, you know, I really feel like this is something that we all should be talking about. And honestly, I didn't even know this event had happened until you mentioned it to me yesterday. And I was like, well, wait a minute, let me go look this up. And then after watching, you can see like Nikola's wife and his child, and she's like shaking her head, because she's like, this is a whole hot mess. But like I said, I worked in Memphis for 2 years, and I remember when Ja Morant's childhood friend got into an altercation at FedEx Forum. They suspended him for like a whole season, and he's actually still being talked about as this negative influence that he's had on Ja. Every little thing that Ja gets into, they're blaming the childhood friend, and he's gotten way more scrutiny than Ja. And so, like, in this situation, when are we going to start calling out Nikola's brother? I mean, it's terrible, but you have to kind of call a spade in this.
Listen,
he definitely should be getting the same heat.
The way that we are covered in media is vastly different, right? There's an acceptability of white men being violent when it comes to sports, right? We can look at hockey, right? You have brawls, which are celebrated and cheered on. In baseball, when there's bench clearing brawls, it's like a huge part of the culture of baseball, right? But you can barely show emotion on a basketball court or on a football field. We look at the coverage of Josh Giddey and the allegations that were levied upon him this past season. Very minimal coverage, right? We can look at even when it comes to people who are committing crimes even outside of sports. You see white men who have committed crimes and they're posted up with their family. Whole time they done murdered their whole family just already. And this is like the images that we project of black people when it comes to not even just criminality, right? But just any kind of act that people are deeming inappropriate. I'm just not a fan of how the media continues to perpetuate negative stereotypes of black people. And I had to talk about it. Had to.
Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, please hold us accountable. Yeah. We need it.
Flage's brother, we saw he was tripping though. You can't be coming on the court, my man. I'm not right. I'm not. I just want to let y'all know, all things ain't equal. All things are not equal. Let me know your thoughts on my fumble of the week. Do you feel like mainstream media is correctly and accurately covering the Jokic brothers, or do you feel like they give them a little bit of a pass, perhaps because of a lack of melanin?
And do you think that Cardoso would have knocked Flage brother out?
1,000%.
All right, so that's all for this week. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of The Fumble. Of course, make sure to subscribe to our channel and at The Fumble Sports on social media. We deliver the latest in sports every day on our YouTube page with Jackie Ray, and every Friday right here at The Fumble with myself, Samaria Terry, and my co-host, Rodney Rakai. So lock in.
Come on, Lakers. You can do it. You can do it. Yeah.